Afternoon, everybody. This is Anthony.
I'm Evan.
And we're here from Amped Airsoft, and this is our Pleb to Pro how-to series. And today we're going to be talking about how to tightbore versus widebore. Alright, so what we have today is we are answering a question that we get every single day. Every day. Now, I'm not faulting anybody for asking it, but I'm just making life easier on myself because we're just going to explain it, and then from now on, you're just going to get a copy pasta link because that's just what's going to happen. All right, so we're going to go through the differences between tightbore barrels and widebore barrels and differences between them in AEGs and HPA builds so that you better plan your purchases out, because especially with HPA builds like a fusion engine, a lot of your parts that you buy afterwards, like nozzles and poppets and stuff, are going to depend on which barrels you pick. We also have a couple examples of aftermarket barrels of each type, so we'll just kind of explain lightly the differences between them so that you're more informed whenever you go to purchase them. So take it away, Evan. You're gonna talk about tightbores.
All right, so I got tightbores with me. I have a Miracle Barrel tightbore right here, and I've got a Promi one right here. Typically, tightbore barrels are between 6.0 and 6.05. Now, the thing is with tightbores is what it's doing is it's pushing the BB on the top of the barrel, and it rides the top of the barrel out. So it's keeping it a nice consistent, so it's coming out more accurately. It gives you better accuracy downrange. Now,
and then the thing is like with a tightbore barrel, like the material that the barrel is built out of is really going to greatly improve its performance. So the higher end, like the thing with barrels is you get what you pay for.
Yeah, it's just like everything else in airsoft.
Everything else.
You know, that's why we kind of recommend the Promi. It's the best bang for your buck. It's just really nice material. I mean, you can see it as soon as you come out of the package. You just look down, it's nice, shiny, nice and clean. We also like these Miracle barrels, but like I said, Promi's just a little bit better. Now, the nice thing about these Miracle barrels is they have these little nicks in the barrel, but what they are is you put these O-rings on them, and they're pretty much just barrel spacers. So it keeps that barrel nice and tight and steady. So you're not having a lot of that barrel movement that sometimes you can get. Now, the thing with tightbore barrels is it will increase your FPS. It's all that, since all that air is right behind the BB, it's pushing that BB at a higher velocity. All right, so now with tightbores, they're more efficient for HPA guns. The point being is with the widebores, all the air is kind of going around it. It's creating a pocket around the BB. Now with the tightbores, it's pushing all the air is right behind the BB. So you're not using as much air to get to a certain FPS.
All right, so the deal with tightbore barrels, since the bore is obviously tighter, not as much air is going around the BB as it's traveling down the barrel. And what that does is that's going to increase your FPS. So you can run your HPA guns at a lower PSI in order to get more shots out of your tank because it's a more efficient barrel setup. It's also going to really jack up your joules and your FPS in your weapon, so you're going to have to turn your PSI down to stay within field limits. Tightbore barrels are really good for people who like to play long games like black sheep events and stuff like that, where they're going to be out all day, shooting a lot, running around, and they don't have time to fill air or carry a whole bunch of extra tanks or stuff like that. It's really good for air stock builds and stuff like that, so you can get the most shots out of those small tanks. That's what I would recommend for those types of builds.
It's also very good for any kind of LMGs because you're just going to be dumping air because you're going fully automatic all the whole time. So you're just going to be dumping air out of the system. So tightbore is a lot better for you. We actually recommend that for any
LMG or support weapon.
Exactly.
Totally on point with that. When you're running a tightbore barrel, this is just a side note for Polar Star users specifically. When you're using a tightbore barrel, you're going to be running with a gold poppet and a red nozzle. The gold poppet is going to really bring you back within field limits. And it's also going to be the most air efficient. And then combining that with the tightbore means you're going to get the most bang for your buck for shots out of your tank. I also recommend this for S&P users over a widebore, solely because the S&P does not have overboard nozzles for lifting its FPS yet. So the thing is that in order to get the most air efficiency out of your setup, you might as well go with the tightbore if you're going to upgrade your barrel at all. And then for AEG users, tightbore barrels are also a very good use to upgrade your FPS without touching your gearbox.
Which can be expensive and dangerous if you don't know what you're doing.
Exactly, and it's not going to physically hurt your gearbox or tear it up or anything like that. So it's actually really good use to upgrade your FPS. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to talk about widebore barrels. Widebore barrels are typically 6.2 in inner diameter or bigger. Right here I have a Prometheus Delta Strike barrel, and I have a Orga Magnus 6.23. The big thing about widebore barrels is that they drop your FPS a lot. And that's due to the physics behind the widebore barrel. The widebore barrel, what it does is BB leaves your leaves your system and heads down your barrel. A widebore barrel, you're flooding it with air. And what you're going to do is you're going to try to create a pocket of air around the BB so that it doesn't. You're going to do your best to overflood the system with air so that the BB never touches the barrel at all, or does very minimally. And what that's going to do is that's going to create more consistent shot to shot. Widebore barrels typically shoot slightly further than tightbore barrels, and especially in HPA setups, but you have a trade-off. With a widebore, since you're flooding the barrel with air, they're less air efficient in Polar Star or HPA setups, and then also in AEG setups, you're going to have to run a very upgraded gearbox to run a widebore, because you can run these in AEGs, and that's where the history for these comes from. In Japan, they had an idea where they wanted to over-volumize a barrel and get the BB out without touching the inner barrel. So what they did was they had huge upgrade springs and lots of upgrade parts in their guns. Guns that with tight bores would be typically shooting 500 or 600 FPS, but with widebore barrels brought them back within their legal FPS limits for their country. But what they were doing is they were obtaining a lot more range and accuracy because the BB was being protected by a bubble of air as it went down the barrel. So that's the way a widebore barrel works. Overall, this is a very accurate and long-range barrel setup, but it's very inefficient in HPA setups. You're looking at typically 100 FPS loss with one of these barrels. And so that's going to really hurt your air efficiency too, because generally without poppets and nozzles, you would have to adjust your FPS up on your PSI and then waste more air to achieve a field FPS. You can do these in real high-end AEGs. Overall, if you're looking for a very good long-range barrel, something that you don't care about air efficiency, but you want pure performance out of, these would probably be your barrels to go with. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and talk about the differences between our two most popular widebore setups real quick. This one right here is the Prometheus Delta Strike barrel. It is the cheaper of the two widebore options right now. It's made of a slightly lower end material than the Orga. And my big problem with it is this. It has a two-piece end on the end of the barrel. Not my thing. It's made of brass, much like the Orga barrel. I just don't feel that as a two-piece barrel that's very good. That's just asking for something to break, and this is only made of plastic.
It comes apart in the hop-up all the time and causes jams and buckings to tear.
Exactly. This, on the other hand, this is the Cadillac of widebore barrels. This is probably one of the more expensive barrels, period, that you're going to get a hold of. And this is an Orga Magnus 6.23. The big thing about this one is it is made of a very high-end brass, and it's machined to a very precise level. If you were to look down the barrel, it's very clean and smooth all the way through. It's damn near perfect. The big thing about this one, the guys from Orga really pushed the flat hop system over the R hop system for hop-ups, and they've went ahead and changed the design of the barrel in order to accommodate that, so that you can instantly flat hop this without any issue, without any modifications. You can just drop it in and go, because there's a side cut right here for the inner bump on the inside of the nub. But we're going to save flat hopping for a different video, so be prepared for that. So overall, they're very different approaches to the same thing, obviously, and that's going to be to increase your range and accuracy. One, you're going to protect the BB with air and flood it. The other one, you're going to make the BB consistently fly down the barrel in the same spot. Either way, as with all things in airsoft, you're going to want to make sure that you buy quality and not try to skimp, because if you buy cheaper brand barrels, you're just going to end up with subpar performance. Overall, with both of these setups, you're easily going to expect with an HPA setup or most AEG setups to push past 200 feet. This is going to slightly edge the tight bore system, though, in the long run. In a fully built and tuned completely correctly Polar Star, this is going to slightly edge it in the long run. But we're talking about percentages, maybe like 30 to 50 feet tops. So like expect like maximum expected range out of a widebore barrel would be about 300 feet. Generally for tight bores about 250. And in the end of the day, that difference is kind of negligible. But for people who care, that does exist. So overall, this has been Pleb to Pro video number 2. How to tight bore versus widebore. I got my battle buddy over here.
I'm Evan.
All right, and this has been Anthony. Take care, guys. See you later.